we're thinking about firefighters, a lot of these circumstances aren't staged in advance. And so you're having to go in a moment's notice. Something started quickly, something spreads faster. And so you have to have something that not only can be reliable, but can be mobile in many circumstances. To be honest, it's partnerships with companies like Dejero. So, you guys are constantly innovating and constantly trying to challenge what can be done better, what's possible.
My name is Evie Cuervo with Dejero. Welcome to Critical Connections, a podcast that features the stories of the people and companies helping to keep our communities connected, informed, and safe. Picture this. A wildfire is rapidly spreading across remote mountainous terrain. First responders are coordinating search and rescue operations while firefighters battle the blaze. Traditional cellular towers are down and radio communications are spotty at best. In these life or death situations, reliable connectivity isn't just important, it's absolutely critical. Joining me today are two experts who understand this challenge intimately and are working together to solve it. First, let's welcome Scott Davies, National Connectivity Solutions Manager at Pelsue Communications. With over 20 years of experience in telecommunications and public sector solutions, Scott has spent his career focused on delivering mission-critical connectivity to those who need it most. At Pelsue, he specializes in rapid deployment communication systems that keep emergency responders connected when terrestrial networks fail. Welcome, Scott.
Good afternoon, Evie.
Also joining me is a familiar face here at Dejero, Rory McCabe. He's our channel sales manager connecting first responders with critical technology solutions. Rory brings over 10 years of experience bridging cutting-edge technology with public safety and government sectors. His background includes extensive work with AT&T and FirstNet, giving him unique insights into the connectivity challenges facing emergency services across the country. Welcome, Rory.
Thanks, Evie. You know how to make a guy feel special.
Well, let's get started. Scott, let's start with you. Pelsue has been trusted by emergency response teams for years. Can you paint a picture of the typical connectivity challenges that wildland firefighters and search and rescue teams face in the field?
Well, sure. And you mentioned it right off the bat with the terrain. The terrain, topography, you start talking about harsh environmental conditions. There's always network issues, right? You've got bandwidth and congestion that can go along with it. Interoperability is consistently an issue that a lot of our first responders face as they're trying to coordinate efforts with other agencies. And then, I think you could look at some mundane things like battery life and things like that. But basically, it's the overall mobile operations, and you're not dealing with fixed infrastructure at all.
And even with fixed infrastructure, I'm at home and my internet just went out, and it happens. Things can happen at any given moment. So, what makes rapid deployment so critical?
Well, as has been mentioned, when you think about, especially if we're thinking about firefighters, a lot of these circumstances aren't staged in advance like you might have with a hurricane. And so you're having to go in a moment's notice. Something started quickly, something spreads faster. And so you have to have something that not only can be reliable, but can be mobile in many circumstances.
Mm-hmm. Now, Rory, you've worked with public safety agencies across the country. From your perspective, how have connectivity needs evolved, especially as we see more extreme weather events and complex emergency scenarios, not just across the United States, but really, around the globe?
Yeah, so I think to our benefit, we have seen a shift in the reliance upon data and information, right? And a lot of that is to circumvent or to mitigate disasters from becoming worse to what they can be, right? So how do we protect life? How do we protect our first responders? And how do we protect our property? And the access to that data is what makes them able to do that, right? So the reliance upon it. And it's not that they're not doing their traditional manners of approach, but being able to make quicker split-second decisions and relying upon that data coming in from external sources that are maybe in safer areas, satellite information, whatever have you, that is what we're seeing more heavy reliance upon. And it's really relevant to the increase of challenges we've seen not just in the US, but globally from a disaster perspective.
Interesting. So how does blending of networks address then the reliability of issues that we're talking about today?
Certainly. So Scott and I are both Coloradans, right? Which is a Minnesotan who lives in Colorado. And one of the things that you can note about some substantially heavy terrain, like interesting terrain environments, is when you put a lot of rock and metal in the ground, your ability to bury fiber lines, things that backhaul our terrestrial networks, our towers, those are more susceptible to things like high winds and fire burning out this infrastructure. So as you see different carriers and different infrastructure there, the reliance upon one can be challenged. So the aggregation of multiple diverse infrastructure can allow you to overcome things like high winds snapping a hanging fiber line, or fire burning something out, right? The ability to rely upon more than just that one infrastructure, and not to have that it seamlessly integrate with our aggregation technology is what we see as the most relevant piece to protecting the data connectivity for our first responders.
So Scott, picking up on what Rory just mentioned, so then when traditional cellular networks are congested or damaged or contested, satellite becomes the lifeline. Walk us through Pelsue's ComLink technology. It's really interesting. Tell us a little bit about sort of the key highlights.
Well, a lot of satellites been around a while, right? But it's just over the past few years that the innovation with the constellation, and specifically the low Earth orbit, has become so profound and pervasive. And so we wanted to have something that we could develop that wasn't having to be managed necessarily like a fleet, but something that the first responder could take. It's a single case solution, it's rugged, and it also has the backhaul capabilities of a Starlink Mini. So they get the best of being able to go into any kind of terrain or environment that was mentioned earlier and be able to have reliable connectivity, be able to one touch, turn it on, and it's ready to go. And they've got the ability to connect not just themselves, but also bring in a team of people to be able to have connectivity as well.
Well, I'm curious about the deployment aspect of this. How quickly can emergency teams get ComLink, the system operational in the field?
5 minutes or less. That's all it's going to take.
Wow. So literally you bring it on the scene, turn it on, and it's connected.
Correct.
So Rory, this is where the partnership between Dejero and Pelsue becomes really interesting. How do our then technologies complement each other to create a more robust communication solution?
Yeah, so we've been working with Pelsue for a few years now. And one of the biggest things is with this incredible technology, right? The ability to broadcast out native network, right? Backhauled with satellite or the available carrier services if they are, right? Some of them might be degraded, some of them might be challenged. The aggregation of the two of those. So down is easy, up is hard, right? And just like last Sunday, my wife and buddy and dog and I, we went and climbed up Mount Shabano, right? It is 4,200 feet elevation gain and a 10.5 mile round trip.
Wow.
The down was the easiest part. Not saying I wasn't tired because you got to go up first to get down, but everyone knows that hikes a mountain that going down takes less muscle, less work than it does. Granted, you always start tired, so it might seem a little harder to you, but the same way works with cell technology, right? Or aggregating. So Pelsue said, hey, we want to have the most stable functional uplink that we can. And that comes with our partnership with them, right? Taking and aggregating all of the data needs and all the data link inputs so that we can get that service out, right? So their differentiator here is they can provide you a substantially more stable uplink to the native network that they're propagating in 5 minutes or less. Like absolutely no one else right now in the industry matches what Pelsue is doing.
Wow,
this way.
That's absolutely impressive. So can you share any real world examples where you've seen this integrated approach make a real difference in emergency operations?
Well, I had the fortunate benefit this past fall of working with some of the staff from Scott's company for Rockland County Sheriff's Department. So they have one of their larger tow-behind assets that propagates out almost, I would say, Scott, about a macro level tower of coverage. It's relatively speaking, about a mile, please correct me if I'm wrong, like a mile radius and there. And if you look at this county, if you look at their coverage of north of New York City, they start hitting in the rolling hills, the dips, and they're known for nor'easters. They're known for a lot of different challenges and major incidents. They went through and said, hey, Pelsue, what you make and what you provide and how reliable that is, that's what makes sense for me. And, what a good experience to get them to where they need to be, especially when it comes down to all of these challenge connections that are coming in. Pelsue gave them a life raft, right? And in this day and age, with what we're seeing out in this year alone, with what is it? I think we've had 3,000 record-breaking floods in our country alone.
Yeah, terrible.
You need a life raft.
Well, and we're also seeing an increased demand for video streaming, real-time data sharing, multi-agency coordination. How do then, vendors adapt to these evolving needs when you have something like Comlink? Scott, kick us off on that.
Yeah, Evie, and it's really, to be honest, it's partnerships with companies like Dejero. So, you guys are constantly innovating and constantly trying to challenge what can be done better, what's possible. And a lot of this is feedback from first responders. I mean, we listed a lot of things that are obstacles to them, and they give feedback, and companies like Dejero come up with a smart blending type of solution, and it makes sense. So we look at this, and it's something that makes, as we're building a deployable or looking at what's next for our asset and the things that we want to provide to a customer, it makes sense to have that partnership and then prove those things out.
Mm-hmm. Well, both of you have experience with priority service networks for emergency response. So how does a solution like Comlink and Dejero Smart Blending technology enhance what these priority services provide to first responders?
Roy, go ahead.
Sure. Well, so everyone on the carrier side, and Scott and I can attest for years of this, right? They're working to build out the most robust network they can, all of the infrastructure, everything, but there's always limitations, right? Whether that's permitting, whether that's topography, sometimes that's capital, right? It crosses the board of what they can do. But what they have built is this prioritization and preemption for connection, right? Taking all of those, we'll call that, first responder grade communications infrastructure, and saying, hey, listen, no one's above, none of us are infallible. Right. So stating, we understand that certain things can't be planned for, can't be controlled. So we're taking these road hard, networks that they've built, and we're pushing those together to provide a more robust network for them, right? So if we have the hiccups, the challenges, the things that they're going to do great, right? A fiber cut happens and a tower goes down and they have a Pelsue Comlink or they have a Pelsue MDS, and that's pushed out there to shore up that gap. Well, those infrastructure teams work to hustle back out to repair those fiber strands to get that back up. That ability right there of pulling in all these resources, giving them that connection, I don't even know if you can quantify what that means, because half the time when something that happens, there are other worse and more challenging things going on that we know those first responders need to be focused on that and not on what happened to that built permanent infrastructure.
So what advice would you give then emergency management leaders who are evaluating their communications infrastructure? I mean, we know that adapting can be very slow, given, the levels involved in making decisions. But what kind of advice would you share?
Well, one thing I would add is continue to give the feedback, because again, a lot of the things that we're trying to do are based on the gaps that they may have. As Rory mentioned, I mean, carriers today, it's commonplace to have prioritization for first responders. That wasn't the case 7 years ago.
Wow.
A lot of these things, the innovation is accelerating, not just every decade, but almost every year. And that brings in more people like Dejero that come in with their expertise, and we're able to do something else and provide a proof of concept that provides them a resource that is invaluable. And then we innovate, and then what's next? I'm reminded that, the majority of the firefighters out there are volunteer. And so when they come to an event, they're using their own device more times than
Wow.
not. And then obviously other assets come in and can help save the day. But, now with direct to device and satellite and things like that, again, another innovation. It's going to be interesting to see where this all looks and by the end of this year and turning into 2026.
Thank you. Ori, how about yourself?
Yeah, I mean, echoing that too, consistently adding to a networks tool, right? Pelsue's gone through and built out his platform, and all of those require legs of that stool to stand. And whether that's a direct to device, right, which can be now today, it's limited and available on handsets, but it's going to come to an IoT, like a gateway level device. They've got Starlink, there's OneWeb, there's a bunch of different LEO, there's Kuiper coming, there's all these different constellations going up that is giving options to help us overcome all the different failures that can occur. And I think from like a first response perspective is I want to be able to take advantage as much as I can, because we just see a higher and larger need, right? Everything's faster, everything's bigger, everything's more challenging. And it's good to see that industry is responding, right? We require these options, but Pelsue is a great unifier, right? Hey, let me get you native network cover out. And if you're not, right, let's just go with maybe that's built out for, one of the 3 top carriers out there that could be used. But if they're not on that carrier, Wi-Fi is available for them as well, right? So you can come to the event, to the situation, and Pelsue can get you connected. And it can vary between that handset, that tablet, a direct native connected to a network via a SIM card, or it could be off of Wi-Fi. But I think the most important thing is a one network in a box mutual aid solution, that's interoperable. And that's what Pelsue's really found themselves with a position of strength with.
Well, thank you so much. Before I wrap up our conversation, which has been so interesting, we are doing something very cool together on August 21st. Scott, Lori, tell us what people can expect during our live webinar.
Rory, I think you got to go. Your teaser was impressive.
I'm Rory McCabe. Join us August 21st for a live webinar with Pelsue, a local fire department, and search and rescue team. Where every second counts, first responders need real communications at work. Don't miss it. Don't miss it!
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So I've got some lovely people behind me to help stuff like that. But Scott and I live in an area that is known for natural disasters, right? But we are a huge recreation area, and that means people are getting out and having a really good time. That also means our fire departments and our search and rescue groups are always busy. And right now we are at the peak of busy season. People are rock climbing, whitewater rafting, mountain biking, hiking, camping, all the things that make Colorado a beautiful place to be. But that's not without risk, right? We're not Disneyland, we're not a playground, and our first responders' ability to get in and help is what we're focusing on. So we're going to be in Clear Creek Canyon. We're going to show a search and rescue scenario where we're going to have to rappel down in. Well, of course, we're doing this safely. We're not just flying off the seat of our pants. We're going to take precautions. We'll be rappelling down into a scenario where we see an injured climber that needs to be evacuated, and that was discovered in a challenging communication spot. And what we're going to focus on is another group that's came and hiked in and has turned up comlink 5 minutes or less. And that is how they're going to be connecting and talking about, hey, we're here and we're trying to do our job. And the last thing we need to think about is communications, and how does Pelsue make that not our problem? And that's what we're going to be working on with Golden Fire Department and Rampart Search and Rescue.
Super cool. This isn't a simulation. It's world proof. I know, Scott, you're not going to be rappelling down, but you're going to be there for the conversation as well, right?
Absolutely. Looking forward to it.
So
I had to convince him not to base jump. He really wanted to pull that chute and it's right off the nose.
August 21st from 1 to 1:30, free live demo. You don't want to miss it. It's going to be incredible fun. And of course, don't forget to mark your calendars. And if you want to learn more about mission critical connectivity solutions, visit pelsue.com for comlink satellite systems and Dejero.com for smart blending technology. Thank you to both of you, Scott and Rory, for this great conversation about mission critical connectivity solutions. Let's do it again soon. And for everybody watching, stay connected and stay safe. Until next time.